Yo, hope you guys are having a good morning, evening, night, whichever one fits it like that. And this is my updated version on item builds. I don't think I've done one like this before, but I hope you guys are having a good morning, night, whichever one fits it like that. So yeah, what we're gonna do in this video here is just update items and runes for Twitch ADC. So if you're interested in either of that, then feel free to keep watching. And if you feel like I've missed something, then let me know in the comment section below. One thing I will not cover here though is AP. This will be focused on AD only. My mic is doing some trickery. Oh well, we'll fix that later. So first off, we're just gonna cover runes, okay? And the first we're gonna take is precision tree. And just to have it said, again, I said before lethal tempos wasn't PTA, but now again they're more equal again. I know this is weird, but it just has to do with the meta and everything. Like when you're getting busted down and like windows are shorter, like time to kill has gone slightly down now. Thank God, freak. So you are actually fine taking lethal tempo, but again, PTA might just be slightly better in most cases. But either is fine. It's up to you. So for that, you can take both of those. The rest of them don't really influence that choice. So the second one we're going to cover is just Triumph and Presence of Mind. If you're able to play with Triumph, you can take it. But if you have not played a lot of Twitch and you don't feel confident and you have difficult matchups, like the safest thing you can do is take Presence of Mind. Right. Second thing here, Bloodline and Alacrity. Most of like 98% of the time you should just default Alacrity unless you like really want to cook. Although this can cover like your lifesteal and stuff like that, but generally speaking, I think it's kind of bad. And I wish it got buffed and they removed the HP that it gave, because you get 85 max health now, and you end up getting something like 35, like 3.5% lifesteal or something like ridiculously low like that. So most of the time, like Alacrity will just feel better and be better because it just takes too long to stack this too. And then finally, for the last runes, you can either go Coop or Cut Down. If they have one tank or like Bruises or anyone that stacks HP, you're most likely going to want to take Cut Down. Unless you're going some weird ass fucking Titanic build, okay? So yeah. That's Precision Tree covered. As for secondary, you have a few more options. The safe one, or like the basic one, like most people do, is like this, right? We'll get to this later. But if you're playing AD and you really want to squeeze out some more damage, sudden impact is really great. You can take eyeball as well, so you end up doing something like this. Again, this isn't what I go, but this is an option, okay? It's gonna feel nice. You're gonna deal more damage. It's gonna be noticeable. Sudden impact definitely is very noticeable. But I think you can get away with not getting this damage. Like, you don't actually need it that much. Like, the damage you're going to get from cut down or something is going to cover your bases when it comes to dealing with the people that you can't actually kill. So I don't feel the need to try and squeeze more damage out. Like, if I could do that early game, then maybe I would. And sudden impact definitely does do that. But everything else kind of like has to scale a little bit. And even then it becomes kind of like insignificant in the grand picture of things. But you can still take it. You can also go somewhere like this. Or this. Like, your two options there is Taste the Blood, Sudden Impact. You can go this and throw W, but I feel like Sudden Impact is just much better. Eyeball Collection if you're going to go other ones. So like your variations is like this, or you can go like this, or you can end up doing something like this, which I think is like probably like the better option. But again, like poke lanes, Taste the Blood can be really nice. It's whatever. Sorcery, not played that much. One of the most like common ones that you're gonna see in sorcery if you're doing this is like this one here, just squeezing as much damage as possible. And this was like the OG rune you would go before when you wanted to get a lot of damage. I don't see the slot played. It's basically like domination or nothing right now, or the second tree, which I'll get to after. But again, you can experiment and do with this. Like, it's fun, it's cool. Like, you're obviously not gonna get that much adaptive, but still. Gathering Storm and everything, like, you're gonna end up getting a bit of extra AD. So again, you can do this if you want to do the most amount of damage as possible, then layer into the game at like free fight. This will definitely be it. If not, you can do the Nimbus Cloak Celerity one for like a lot of movement speed, more fun oriented. It is what it is. And then if you're looking to do like more tanky ones, then this is like your only like option here really. Unless you have an enchant or something, you can maybe go this, but most of the time this is it. But then you have to remember that if you're sticking HP, you cannot take cut down. So you have to then do this. Now, finally, the last tree and my personal recommendation, I really like this, is Boots and Cosmic Insight. The reason for this is because right now, Twitch plays like Ghost and Flash. And Cosmic Insight just reduces the cooldown on that summoner by so much. So that is why I think this is like the most like basic kind of like safe rune to take, but also just it gives you like much more leeway when it comes to like flashing a bit earlier on Dragon, and just having it like more often I think is very big. And then obviously the additional movement speed on the boots, and then it just like allows you build to like flow a bit better, not having to think about buying boots and just being able to like rush your first item, I think can be good for some people. So I think this here can be very good. And I'll see, this is my personal recommendation. You can obviously do some cheeky things like this here, or you can go for this variation here, and we'll get to that later. When I'm covering the items. But first we're going to just cover the second option you have of main rune, which is Hail Blades. And again, like it follows the same logic, but if you're going to go like AD, I would just take sudden impact, go this, and then you can either choose like this or this here. Moving speed has been said before, but I really don't believe in that. I think it's either or. But again, Ultima Hunter is probably going to be the best option here. And again, you're kind of like forced into precision then, because like they have some good runes here, like cut down, etc. You can like do this here, where you go alacrity, cut down. Or again, if you rely on the presence of mind, you're kind of like forced to either take alacrity or cut down or something. It just really depends. And going something else is kind of bad. I mean, you can obviously do something like this, but it's going to be very weak early game, like loose now on this and alacrity and like this. Like you are really going to suffer. So, yeah. Most of the time, those are the options. Again, I would just default to the precision one. Although Hail Blades can be fun and good too. I don't really play that myself unless I'm playing support. So yeah. Now we're going to get to items. And I mean, I'm not going to go cover everything. I'm going to give you some interesting examples and then we'll leave it at that. And then also just say what people are playing right now. And then we'll go there. Alright. So, the most basic one we have right now, right? The one everyone probably knows. Is Blade the Rune King, Hurricane, Boots, right? And then you can follow it up with like Infinity Edge, LDR, or whatever people do, right? Like you can really mix and match, but once you're going like something like this, you obviously want to get more crit, because you are still like then playing for crit if you're going Infinity Edge. And you can alternatively go Kraken Slayer. But I would say that if you're doing stuff like this, then I think Phantom Dancer is really good. I only wish that Phantom Dancer would be a bit more expensive and have like maybe 30 AD. But then again, I think this item would be absolutely cracked. But I just wish it could be slightly better. Because it feels bad to have full build and then still an item that costs 2.8k. But it's just such a like good item. Right? So this might be like one variation. And it just like has to like have this fluidity to it. It's like the one item you get, the next one has to come after, has to like kind of make some sense. You can't really just go like this and then go Infinity Edge. Like it just has very low synergy. It's like the items has to flow, because you can't just like have one strong spike and then not have a strong spike, right? It has to like be like, it's good, it's good, it's good. And then maybe at one point it's gonna be like, okay, now it's really fucking good, right? But yeah, Blade first. It's very fine. It's decent. Boots, right? But what I like to do personally is just to go green. So if I'm doing this now, because this really gives you like that extra like juice in your auto attacks, and the damage is a lot higher than you would expect. And then you follow it up with a Hurricane. And you see here, like throughout this entire path here, you are kind of like just building on that spike and like maintaining relevant and like taking advantage of the things that it gives and just kind of like building upon that, right? You're adding things that like make sense. You're like salt and pepper and then like other things. You're like cooking some nice stew or something. But then comes the difficult thing. Because at this point here, you would think that Terminus would be good, right? Guinso, attack speed, on hit, like synergizes. But 99% of the time, if you're having to go arm penetration, LDR will deal more damage. And then after this, you are just going to go BT. You're not going to go Infinity Edge when you're doing this, and this will most likely be your final build. But you only go LDR if they have a lot of armor. If they don't, you can do something really fucking spicy, which is Profane. And the damage this build does against squishies if they're stacked is absolutely insane, okay? I don't have to kill blades. So yeah. And then again, you follow this up with BT, or you can go LDR. Or you can do the opposite where you go LDR and then Profane after if you're fine not getting the BT. And again, the damage of this build is going to be insane. But this is more like a lethal tempo kind of build, right? It can make sense, like Rage Blade, Hurricane, etc. And if you go PTA, it kind of like doesn't have that synergy. And then another variation you can do is play the Rune King PD, right? But again, you're getting crit then. So like it becomes a bit awkward because like it would be nicer than to go Kraken in PD. And obviously this would be a slightly cheaper like kind of build. But this isn't something I would personally play a lot. I think it's a bit lackluster, but it's kind of like the same idea. Like Rage Blade, Blade Rune King, this is like Kraken Slayer PD. It has like the same kind of like idea, but it just functions differently. And again, like you would follow this up with something like this. And then at this point here, you have so much damage. So like at this point, it's again a question of having to kill tanks, or you can just go this here. And again, your damage will be fine. But I personally don't really like this build. I'm really anti-Kraken. Although when I'm jungling, I will mostly take Kraken. Because I'm playing PTA and has different synergies. And it kind of like works differently, right? Like I'm not playing ADC. So you can kind of like get away with going Kraken. Like you will notice that some games your Kraken is going to have very little damage. And that's just how it is. But generally speaking, you want some attack speed on the first item. And then you follow that up with like either like Hurricane or something. But here's where it gets like weird, right? Because when you go Blade the Rune King and you go Hurricane, like this is like barely making it. Like if you were to do Kraken Slayer and Hurricane, I would not recommend that. Like the damage is going to be very subpar. It's not very good. And at that point, like I would do in reverse. Like you would take Kraken Infinity Edge or something and then Hurricane. Because it doesn't flow as well. And the only reason Blade can like barely make it and like flow with Hurricane second is because of the on hit. Right. So one thing that is important to realize is like when you're playing certain items, if you're strong or not. And that's going to matter when we get to the next item that I'm going to tell you guys about. Because when you get Blade, even if you're slightly behind, you can still 1v1 a lot of champions. But as a very good, sorry, no but. It's very strong. It has a big spike. It allows you to do like ridiculous like stupid plays that you would not be able to do with other items. And you wouldn't be able to get away with. So, in terms of like a one item spike, this is incredibly strong, right? In comparison to like any other item almost. And again, with Kraken, it's going to be less. And also, if you're playing against Tabai, you're going to experience an even bigger problem with these kind of like Kraken or Shiv or I don't know what else there is. Storm Racer first. Like you are going to deal very little damage until like your second or third item versus certain champions. So this brings me to my final kind of like recommendation here. Right, we've gone over the, or not final actually. We'll do this one first. Infinity Edge first. Hurricane, obviously boots, or you can do Infinity Edge PD boots. Right, it sounds weird. But it can be good. Although it really depends on what you want. I'm only showing you guys options. My recommendation would not be this though. This is more like for trying or something. Like if you like it, then go for it, right? Like you'll see different rooms where you can do this and that. But one of my other recommendations outside of the Blade the Rune King, Gwyn's or Hurricane build into like Profane or LDR is to go Stag Shiv. And I've said before, like throughout a lot of videos, like, or not videos, stream, that I think Shiv is good, but it's just a bit like weird. And to explain that, if I were to draw like the perfect build with boots, I would say the build would be Infinity Edge, right? And then PD, as I said, LDR, Hurricane, and BT. This is the perfect build, right? This is like if I could pick a build, I would pick this build. Unless maybe like Blade Rune King. But like, in terms of crit, if I could pick a build, I would pick this one. But then this becomes a problem, because if you're going this, you can't get the PD. Like, you have to swap it at some point, right? It's like, that's like kind of like the downside of these other items, is that you can't like, you're forced to have this. Same with if you go on Blade, right? Then you're stuck with the problem that you're 80% crit. But it's not, it's fine, right? It's not a big issue. But I'm just saying, like, in an ideal world, like a perfect build, this would probably be one of my choices. But then again, now when we are going this build that I'm going to show you now, is Static Shiv, Boots, and then again, you have to go item / synergize as well, right? And you can't go Static Shiv, Hurricane. I mean, you can, but again, it will be really bad. So then you get into the awkward thing if you have to go then Stack Shiv, Infinity Edge, because the build has to flow from start to finish. And if you do this, it's going to flow here, then it stops flowing, and then the flow continues, right? So you like get this weird spot. But then if you go this here, you're going to have like a nice flow throughout the entire like your item set. And then after this, you can maybe follow it up with this. But in most cases, then you would go LDR, because then maybe you can have a tank or someone that's fed, so you want to deal with him. And this build here is going to do a lot of damage. It is going to do a lot of damage, right? And then after that, you can get Hurricane. And then again, you maybe get a BT, right? Because this then will be the build. So that's like the general thing when it comes to cooking. The builds has to flow. Like, you want the builds to flow like from start to finish, because you don't want to have like a certain item that you invest 3k gold into and then it doesn't give you anything like noteworthy. Because then you don't really do anything to two items. Like, I'm not saying like you're gonna be completely useless if you go Hurricane. Like, obviously you're going to deal some damage, but like, it's not optimal, right? And that's been my problem with this item here. It's been like, what would I go next? Right? Like, what item would I go second if I go Stack Shiv first? And the only logical answer is this item here. But then you start to realize something when I'm going these items, is that I have no life still. And this becomes a very big problem later into the stages of the game when you want to farm jungle or something. You are going to notice that you're going to be losing some HP. Which is why when you're doing these items here, it could be worth to like go Bloodline, even though it's like subpar. But then again, you're going to lack even more attack speed. Which is why, again, I would have wished they would have like buffed PD or something slightly. I mean, 5% is still fine. It's equal to like, I mean, it's more than Blade even. But you have to remember, I don't have Alacrity right now, but it gives like 14% or something. I don't want to say exactly. Don't quote me. I don't really tend to remember these things. So the loss of attack speed is very noticeable, but it is like almost a must. Because like you are going to notice the loss. Right? And that is basically it. I've shown you now a lot of paths here, like this one here, right? With Stack Shiv start first. And the cool thing about this item here, if you go in the build that I show that I like, is that you go Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Alacrity, Cut Down, or Coup de Grace. And then second you go Magical Footwear. But then you go Futures Market. And you will just get this item so incredibly fast. Which then makes the item more viable, right? But the problem or the thing you have to remember with this item here is that you're not going to have that same early game spike versus certain champions. Like if you're down 2 kills or something and you try and fight, you might not necessarily win. Because this item here isn't like particularly like incredibly strong early game in comparison to like something like Blade. Like I've had some games today where I played there's an Estro and he was quite fed. If I had Blade, I would have been able to beat him early. But since I was doing this build here, I was feeling quite weak. But then obviously as I got items, that stopped being a problem. But obviously like my snowball potential really disappeared from that because I was already behind. And then I had to like, I didn't have anything to like get me ahead. The only thing I had was like the ability to push waves and CS and stuff. So your spikes are going to be very different. But I do think that this build here is good. There's been a guy on Reddit and he's messaged me too talking about this item, and I've said the same thing to him. So I'll give some credit to him. I don't remember his name exactly. Badias, I think. Yeah, Badias. So if you're watching this video, then credit to you as well. I've always said it's been a good item though, but yeah. I wish there was some more like lifesteal like items there, maybe some attack speed like Blade Rune King with some attack speed or something in create. But it is what it is. So yeah, you have a lot of options. Some are better, some are good, some are best, but like all of them are gonna work. Like you can go Kraken first, and then you can go Infinity Edge or like PD. Like this here, I think is good. I think this is here is completely fine. Going like the attack speed from PD is incredibly noticeable, and I think that even going this build here is going to be incredibly cheap and have a very like good 2-item spike, and it's going to be very noticeable. So like if you want, go this here, follow with Infinity Edge, and then LDR, and then Hurricane, right? But then you see the problem again, you have no lifesteal. So like if you're going to go this build here, you definitely do need to have Bloodline. Because you can't really like skip on LDR. Skipping Infinity Edge would be stupid. You can skip this and go this. And yeah, you would have a really strong build. But again, you'd be missing the Hurricane, right? So it's just a big give and take. But I think almost everything is viable. Just go where you want. But like, I definitely recommend trying the Gwynso Blade Rune King build, and also to try this here, right? Very cheap early game, and then it will kind of like help you like farm and just get your next item. And then when you get 3 items, as an example, like maybe this, you are going to notice it a lot, and you're going to feel very strong. So yeah, keep gliding, stay safe, take care. I'm not going to make this video much longer than this here. I think I've covered everything. So yeah, have a good night. Oh, and collector, don't go that. It's a fun item. That's it. Peace.